Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today, in honour of the brand new Hunger Games book Sunrise on the Reaping, which I did read in one day, I'm going to be making a 1:24 scale-ish diorama of the hanging tree. I basically started making this by using an old cardboard box that I bought this. Actually, to be fair, it was a very helpful gadget. It's this little gadget that you put all of your vegetables in and then you pull the string and it cuts all the vegetables really fine for you, so you don't have to chop them up really fine. It's really good actually, would recommend. But that's besides the point. This box came in quite handy because the cardboard was very firm, so I cut it into the desired shape and then used all the offcuts to create a sort of ledge of the kind of rock face that I wanted. I then made all of these plaster of Paris rocks. I've shown how to do that a couple of times in previous videos, but if anyone wants me to go over it, I can. Basically, you just mix plaster of Paris and crinkle up some cling film and then pour it in there and you get these really realistic looking rocks, which you can then paint. So I basically hot glued those all over my cardboard mess, and we'll get back to that later. But first things first, we need to add the tree, the shining star of this build, the hanging tree. So this is literally the inside of a tinfoil roll. As we know, if you've watched any of my videos before, I love doing things on a budget because I hate spending money. So I literally am using pretty much trash in this video. I mean, plaster of Paris is super cheap. And I had some of this wire from when I thought I wanted to make jewellery. One of my many crafting phases. If you're also a crafter, you know all about the crafting phases. So I've got loads of this leftover wire. So I basically made the general shape of the branches with wire and then wrapped them with cling film. Not cling film, what is that? Tinfoil. That's the one. I like tinfoil because it's easy to kind of work with, and it's good at strengthening things as well. And you know what? I won't lie, it's what I've seen everyone else use. So I'm just a little sheep in this world of crafting. And who are the shepherds? We'll soon find out. So after I'd carved all of my branches, I went over the entire tree with my hot glue gun and basically tried to make a bit of texture. This proved completely futile because I did actually go over the whole thing with clay. But you know, sometimes I do things for the sake of doing things and not because they make any sense whatsoever. And I think this was one of those times. I'm now mixing up a new batch of plaster of Paris. I'm also mixing in some toilet paper with this. As you saw a minute ago, I basically shredded the toilet paper into tiny little bits and I'm mixing that in with the plaster of Paris. I'm then literally just glooping that into all of those missed bits between my tinfoil rock plaster of Paris formations. And then I'm basically using my lollipop stick and then later on a clay carving tool to just put it in all of the crevices, and then as it dries kind of make some texture in the plaster of Paris. So you know, pressing down on it, making little rivets, making little dots and stuff to give some rocky texture and make all of those rocks that I've put in there kind of blend together seamlessly. So as you can see, this is a little silicone clay tool that I've got, and plaster of Paris does dry quite quickly. So after a few minutes, you get it to that tacky stage where you can mess with it and add texture, and I really like that about this material. I also love how cheap it is. I think, you know, you can get 5 kilograms of this for a couple of quid, so it's pretty good. When this all dried, I realised that my cliff face it looked too unnatural. It basically went from flat top to completely straight cliff face and then flat bottom. So I wanted to give it a bit more depth, a bit more something, you know, a bit more undulations, if you will, to the landscape. So I basically made up some more plaster of Paris rocks and did the same thing again, just hot glued them on and then went back in with my toilet paper plaster of Paris mix and smushed it all in so there were no gaps. Now going back to the tree, as you can see, I don't really do anything in any form of chronological order. I kind of just look at a project and think, what shall I do next? And then do whatever my heart so pleases. So next thing, I am getting some clay and just wrapping it around basically the whole of the tree. I was just going to do it on the branches, but then I thought, it might actually look a bit better if I do the whole thing, because then I can carve some texture into it. So I made this little root going into the rocks. I decided to make the like the bottom layer rocky instead of like a meadow, because I always think of District 12, where the hanging tree is, as being a really rocky, you know, it's a mining town, being really rocky and quite barren and stuff, but with hints of beauty. So I decided to have the tree growing from rocks, which is rather unusual, I suppose, but it felt right to me. So yeah, just smushing lots of clay on all of the different branches and on the main bulk of the tree itself. I then took some more sculpting tools, and I mean, you can just use a lolly stick, you know, or your fingers. You don't need anything fancy to do this, really. Again, I love air dry clay because it is a very accessible material, and you know, it's cheap. Anyone can use it. So here I am using a tool to just add some texture. I love in trees the way they have the kind of lines that come down, like the wrinkles of the trees. So I tried to emulate that a bit with these lines. I found the more random you are, the better. If you're trying to, you know, force yourself to do them in these specific patterns, it ends up looking a bit silly. So I ended up just attacking it basically with my tools. So on one of my previous videos, I had a bit of problem painting my plaster of Paris rocks, and someone, I've forgotten who, but someone commented saying I should use washes instead. And that was a fantastic idea. However, as you can see there, I didn't mix some of the paint well enough, the brown paint, so it went quite dark. But this did give a really nice kind of undercoat, and gave the rocks a kind of different hue here and there, rather than being quite flat, because that was what I was struggling with before, where I just paint them black and then dry brush over the top. They just looked a bit flat. But where you've got the green and the brown and the yellow, it gives it a little bit more something. I do think I did go a little bit overboard with the black afterwards, but you know, it's all trial and error. And as Bob Ross says, happy mistakes. Is that what he says? Happy little accidents, that's what he says. So then I'm just taking my watered down black acrylic paint and painting the tree as well, just to get in all those nooks and crannies. We don't want any white of the clay shining through. And then basically just went over the tree with lots of different shades of brown in various stages of being watered down. I wanted the tree to have a really old kind of withered look to it, so I wanted it to have lots of different colours. You know, I've got black in there, I've got brown in there, lots of different shades of brown. And then I went over the whole thing with watered down black acrylic paint. And this is where I think I maybe went slightly overboard with the black, because it does wash out a lot of those lovely colours that were underneath, but I'm still happy with the final result, so I don't think it's awfully bad. Bit of dry brushing on the branches and the trunk, you know how it is. Love a dry brush, I think it brings everything to life. And doing the same again on the rocks down below. With dry brushing, I find it's easier to work darkest to lightest. I think that's what most people do, really. And then, you know, the lightest white that you get, just doing that really lightly and hardly, you know, touching it at all. So now I'm happy with my rocks. I'm going to go in and add some foliage. So I basically got loads of this clump foliage from different brands like Woodland Scenics and well, to be fair, I think all of this is from Woodland Scenics, but they do fantastic different types of foliage. So I've got some rocks, some sand, some clump foliage, some kind of grass foliage, and some flower tufts as well, which are brilliant. I really like the flower tufts because obviously District 12 is described as being quite barren, but there are, you know, pockets of beauty with the meadow and things like that. And if you have read the new book, I won't spoil it, but if you have read the new book, they definitely touch on that in this one as well. So here, to secure everything in place, I'm going over with a layer of isopropyl alcohol and then a layer of watered down white glue. And when that stuff dries, like, it is not going anywhere. It's basically cement. And it's a really good way of kind of making sure everything stays in place. So here are some of those flower tufts I was talking about. I love the different variations in colour, so I decided to just use them all. And I think it worked out really nicely. I really like the contrast of, you know, the hanging tree being the hanging tree, and then you've got all of these beautiful flowers growing around it. I think there's something quite fun about that. Now, no project is complete, in my opinion, without a bit of resin. So I have this Perspex glass from when I decided to dismantle one of my old photo frames, and so I used it to create a dam. I then mixed up my two epoxy parts into one and added a bit of blue colouring as well. Now, this isn't deep pour epoxy, so I did do it in a few layers, but I made sure that each layer wasn't fully cured before I put the next layer in. So you'll see at the end, I don't have any of those harsh lines that you would have if you waited for each layer to fully cure. So as you can see, the dam held up really well. I ended up pouring in 3 different pours, and yeah, they worked together really seamlessly. I didn't get any warping or, you know, it didn't get too hot or anything like that, which was really, really good. I was really pleased with how the resin turned out in this project. So after a couple of days, I removed the dam, which actually came off a lot easier than I expected, and it was really satisfying because where the Perspex glass doesn't like stick to the resin for whatever reason, it literally just completely cracks off. I mean, oh, look at that. And it leaves a really nice shine on the resin as well, because my least favourite thing to do is sanding. I just refuse to. So I'm really glad it left a clean finish, because then I didn't have to sand it. I then trimmed up all of the edges because they were a little bit sharp where the resin had risen up on the dam. Next, I added some water effects, and I added a noose on the hanging tree and painted the sides black. And with all that being done, let's have a look at the finished result.